We are back for another one. This time, oil change. 2015 Audi RS5. How hard will it be for an amateur? How much time will it take? How much money will I save? Stick around and find out. This is my daily driver. I actually just got back from 944 Fest where I took my 1987 944 Turbo. If you guys watched the videos, you knew in 3 weeks I had to replace the engine in that car. But for today, we are going to change the channel a little bit, and the Audi is ready for an oil change. So the factory manual states every 10,000 miles, which is baloney. I do it every 5,000 miles, so let's see what it entails. How hard is it for an amateur to do? How long is it going to take in your own garage? How much is it going to save me as opposed to taking it to a dealer or an independent shop? So I do have my QuickJacks out. I will be sliding those under the car, getting them under the pinch welds and jacking it up. Now let's take a look at all of the items I'm going to need to perform the job. So we are going to start with glasses so that I can see up close, keys to be able to get the car to function afterwards, these little pincher tools. This is to get the caps off of the lug nuts. This is a socket to be able to get the lug nuts off of the car, or at least break the torque before I get the car up in the air, because I am going to also be rotating the tires. And this is a stud. For those of you that don't know, a lot of German cars will use a wheel bolt instead of using 5 wheel studs to help set the wheels on. When the wheel bolts come out, screw this into one of the top ones, and that keeps the wheel from falling off when you take the wheel bolts out. I also have a 32mm socket. This is to get the top of the oil filter housing off. I have a 6mm Allen. This is to take off the oil drain plug. I have a couple of ratchets, as well as 10.4 quarts of Liqui-Moly 5W40. This motor actually takes 10.2 quarts of oil, so she is a thirsty girl. I also have an oil filter from Bosch, as well as a new crush ring for the oil drain plug. I will also be using my legit street cars pen light, which will come in very handy underneath the car. And finally, I will be using the VCDS to reset the service interval warning. All right, so let's get this car up in the air, get the hood open, and get to work. All right, one of the things I want to point out here is when you set the jack points on the QuickJacks, or the rubber blocks here, on these B8 and B8.5 Audis, so that's everything from like an A4 to an A5, the jack points, you can see here that there is like a plastic slash felt type of material that covers the entire pinch weld all the way down except for 2 spots. See if I can see the other, get you guys to see the other one down here. So down there and up in the front. So one of the things that Audi did not do was put a central jack point in the car. The pinch welds are all covered, so it makes it really difficult to put a jack underneath the front or the rear and then get a jack stand next to the jack to hold it up. So QuickJacks are much easier to get these cars up in the air, and since I'm going to be doing a 4-wheel rotation anyway, it just makes more sense to get the whole car up in the air as opposed to just the front. These are the caps that go over the lug bolts on all the wheels. So I will get all of these off, and then I will break the torque on all of the lug bolts. All right, all of the lug caps are off of the lug bolts. All of the lug bolts have been detorqued. So now it's time to get this car up in the air. The car is up in the air. I have it only to the first set of stops. I don't want to get it too high up in the air at this point, because then it would make it very difficult to get in the back of the motor where the oil filter housing is, and I will show you that in a moment. But first, I am going to pull the front wheels, and you'll see why I'm taking them off also in a minute. Now this wheel is still being held on by the hub, but if I did not have this stud put into the hole, if anything were to hit this wheel, it would just fall down, probably nick up my brake calipers. But this also not only makes it easier to keep the wheel from falling off and damaging anything, but also when you go to put the wheel back on, it gives you a centering point to be able to put the wheel back on and hang there without using all your muscle trying to line it up. All right, I've got the front wheels off, so the next step is to get this hood popped, get the top of the oil filter housing off, get underneath the car, and then get the massive under panel off, which is a lot of bolts. I don't know if I'm gonna put that on camera, but it's kind of self-explanatory once you get under there. And then I will get the oil drain bolt taken off, get the oil drained out, and then we'll continue from there. Look at that 8,250 RPM redline. 4.2 liters of V8 deliciousness. First, we're gonna pull off this beauty cover here. This just kind of pops off. And then you'll see the oil filter housing is right there. So we'll put the 32 millimeter socket on this. We're going to crack that open and get the oil filter out, and then we will get underneath and start going from there. We are underneath the car, and my apologies for the dryer sound in the background. This is real life, folks. Things got to get done. So there's a couple of different bolts that keep this cover attached, including some here in the wheel well, which is why I took the front wheels off first. Like I said, I will be doing a 4-wheel rotation, but for now, these bolts have to come off, as well as these up here. They are all pretty much Torx bits. Honestly, I can't remember if they're T25s or T30s, but it's pretty self-explanatory when you get under here. And then there's a couple of triple square bolts right there that have to come out, as well as these bolts back here and that one. This is what makes this job kind of a pain in the butt, but still it's worth it to take the extra time and do it yourself and save some money. I have all of the bolts out now. This is so much overkill. It is totally unreasonable to have this many fasteners to hold this panel on underneath, but that is the German way. Why use 2 bolts when you can use 10? I have that tray out, and it is absolutely massive. The fact that they just don't put an access hole or a flap or something to be able to access the oil drain plug just goes to show that they do not want you performing your own work on these cars. They want you to have to bring them into the dealership, spend double the amount that you would if you did it yourself, spend even more time waiting in the waiting room to get the oil change done so you can look at the bright new shiny cars and hopefully buy a new one. There is the oil drain plug. You can see that there is a copper crush washer. So it is a 6 millimeter Allen. Let's see how well my aim is to try to get it into the catch pan that I have. Well, I made a boo-boo, and I wanted to show it so you guys don't make the same mistake. Look at the mess. Bruh. I walked away while this was draining out, and the stream started moving further this way, and this was too far that way, and started draining into here. So now I'm gonna be spending more time cleaning up a mess. All right, I wanted to show you the difference in the washer. So here's the oil drain plug. Here is the old washer. And it might look like it's just a flat copper crush washer, but it's actually a donut. It is donut shaped, and it will squish and form a better seal. In my experience, I tried to use a normal flat crush washer previously, and it started leaking immediately. So I buy these in bulk. I think the last time I made an order from SCP Euro, I just bought 10 of these just to always have them on hand. Okay, so that was insane. It took me way longer than it should have. I think it was 28 or 30 fasteners that I had to remove from that under panel. to take it off and then to put it back on again. It did take me a little bit of extra time because I had the oil spill and it took me some time to get that all cleaned up. But as of right now, I am going to swap the wheels from the back to the front, and then I will get the car back down onto the ground and then move to filling it with oil and get the oil filter replaced. All 4 tires are rotated, car is back down on the ground. Now it's time to swap out the oil filter and fill this thing up with oil. Okay, so in the box you get a new Bosch oil filter. There is an O-ring on this locating pin, so I am going to lubricate that with a little bit of oil before I install it. And I am also going to replace the O-ring that is in the oil filter housing cap. It is right there, so I'll just use a 90-degree pick to take that off, put this new one on. I'll also put a little bit of oil on that as well. Just want to make sure that nothing gets bound up or tears. I never noticed this before. It tells you right on the top to tighten it down to 25 Newton meters. Oil filter is in, cap is torqued down, oil is filled. Now the next step is to fire this thing up. Time for a cold start. Fire in the hole. All right, so the next step is to shut this thing down, break out the VCDS, and reset the service interval. Okay, so I'm in the car, foot off the brake. I am going to hit the start-stop button, and I am going to go to SRI reset. And let it run its course. Okay, so the VCDS has done its thing. I'm going to hit OK and hit done. All right, so job done. I have to admit it took me a lot longer than I wanted it to. I aimed for about 1 hour to complete the job. It ended up taking me about 2.5 hours. So what were some of the things that I didn't anticipate? So one was the oil spill that I had, which was my own fault. About 15 to 20 minutes, I would say, to clean that up. Secondly, it took more time because I was filming. If I had not taken the time to set up the camera, try to figure out what shot to have, and make sure that I was recording all of it, that would have at least knocked off another 30 minutes off of this job. And lastly, the underbelly pan that was like 27 screws to take off. That's just something that comes with it. So was it hard? No. Was it annoying? Yes. And did it take a lot of time? Yes. Now, before any of you RS5 guys start screaming in the comments about how, well, the way that Audi does it, the way that you do it is an oil extractor where you don't even lift the car off the ground. I get it, it saves a lot of time, but quite frankly, I would rather make sure that all of the oil is coming out of the bottom and is flushing itself out. It just makes more sense to me to make sure that I am flushing all of that oil out. That is personal preference. It was my choice to go that route. So overall, can an amateur handle this job? 100%. It's not hard. Is it annoying? Absolutely. Does it take some time? Yes, it does. Now, what about the cost? Just Google the average cost of an oil change for a 2013 to 2015 Audi RS5. The cost comes in anywhere from $208 to $260. That's a lot of money. The oil that I bought was off of Amazon. It was $2 5-quart bottles of liquid moly, 5W40. Those two combined came to about $90 shipped to my door. I also bought a Bosch oil filter that was about $10 to $15. So I am all in at just about $100 in terms of my cost. Now, in terms of my labor, it took me 2.5 hours. If I didn't have the oil spill, if I wasn't filming, I could have probably had it done in maybe an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. Now, what else would I have been doing during that time? Watching YouTube videos. So I think that this was a great use of my time, saving myself at least $100 to $120 that I can put that money into the 944 or some other project around the house. But that is for you to decide if it's worth it for you. Please give it a thumbs up, give me a like, a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you can be informed of the next video that's coming. It'll probably be a walnut blast carbon cleaning on the valves of my son's 2013 Audi A5. So until then, catch you on the next one.